Welcome to NFL World, where NFL starts and ends. I'm your host, Jacob. And we're going to explain today how the NFC East dominated. And if you enjoy this content, why don't you like, share, comment, and subscribe? It's absolutely free, and it does me a lot of good. So let's begin with the Giants. So the New York Giants, when we talk about the Giants, we always say when we get to draft season, they do weird things. The Browns do weird things. The Giants do weird things. They always do something that's like, what? What was that? And this year, look, we'll talk about who they drafted at quarterback in the first round, but I want to talk about their first overall pick, which was Abdul Carter, the edge rusher at Penn State. Yes, another Penn State Nittany Lion in the division to go against Micah Parsons. He's an absolute animal. This guy, great bend. He's bigger than Micah is, but he has the athletic ability that Micah has, which is terrifying. You got two of those guys, they're like pit bulls. You put him along with Brian Burns on the other side, and then you have Kayvon Thibodeau in rotation. That's going to be a dominant defensive line if they can just stay healthy. For a second, we did it right before the draft. We said Abdul Carter will be one of the best superstars in this game, and he's coming in this NFL. He's going to be ready to roll. And this guy, he's dominant. He's got great hand placement, great speed, the power. He'll legit just throw you if he wants to. He's that kind of animal. So I love that pick. The trade up for Jackson Dart. So I like they went quarterback. That is not my disagreement. This is kind of where it falls off for me. This is why I had everyone in this division at a solid B at either the lowest or highest point. Jackson Dart is what brings it down to the B+. Because it was an A. This was an A. They drafted very well. What brought it down to a B+ was they traded up for Jackson Dart. Like as if someone was going to trade up and draft him ahead of you. No one was. Nobody. So while you felt the urge to trade up from whatever you were, I think they were pick 34, pick 36, why they felt to trade up to 26, or 25, to draft Jackson Dart was the best idea, I don't know. So there was that, in my opinion, that was a little wonky, but I don't think it was a bad choice. And I think the reason they did it was because they think this guy, if they give him the extra year, the 5th-year option, whatever their quarterback situation is in a year or 2 years, whatever, he could be ready. They could use that extra year, kind of like what the Packers did with Jordan Love all those years ago. So maybe that was their plan, but still I was a little skeptical of trading back up for that. Now, since they didn't have a second-round pick because that's what they traded up with, they selected in the 3rd round Darius Alexander, defensive tackle out of Toledo. Jackson Dart, also the quarterback out of Mississippi, just to let you know. State, Mississippi, then they go to Toledo to take Darius Alexander. Good pick as a defensive tackle. Little undersized, but has tremendous power. Little concerned of what he'll do in the pass game. Maybe he's just more of a run defensive tackle, which is okay. You have Dexter Lawrence. It's not like you're not falling apart at that need. So I like the pick. It was a good pick for them. And in the 3rd round, it's great value. Then in the 4th round, they drafted running back Cam Scatterboo out of Arizona State. So Cam Scatterboo is kind of like a folk hero, which fits the Giants to a T. You can put Cam Scatterbo and Tommy DeVito on the same bench, and it's fine. Because he's not the fastest guy, but he'll run his tail off. He's that kind of player. He's the guy who grab the hard hats, grab the lunch pails, and go to work. That's him. There's nothing wrong with that. He's not fast necessarily, but that's why you have Tyrone Tracy. So you're okay. It's a good pick, especially with 4th round. It's great value. In the 5th round, this was a trade with Seattle now. They take Marcus Bowe, the offensive lineman out of Purdue. This is a great pick. Marcus Bowe might have been the best offensive tackle and day 2, and he went day 3. Like that's how he plays. He's the kid out of Purdue. He's big. He has great anchor. He anchors himself to the ground well, good footwork. Maybe needs a little time, but a great prospect to have. Pairing him with Andrew Thomas would be an ideal choice for them. Can't tell I'm reading this off my phone to make sure I have everyone's name. Because they had to trade their 6th round pick with the 2nd to get into the 1st round, they selected in the 7th round Thomas Fedone, the 2nd, the tight end of Nebraska, who I didn't really pay that much attention to Nebraska football, but when you get to a 7th round pick, it's hard to grade anyone lower than a C, because it's like, okay, there's not much difference between a 7th round draft pick and a UDFA. It's just not. So, a good pick for them. Another 7th round pick. This one from Buffalo, like Corey Black, the cornerback out of Oklahoma State. There's nothing wrong with a 7th round pick. UDFA, 7th round pick, there's not much difference. Cornerback room was a little dense for my taste, so drafting a cornerback was not the bad thing. All in all, I gave him a B+, which you will come to know in this draft, in this division, that's pretty much what I gave every team. Next up, we're going to Philadelphia. So their first pick, they took Jihad Campbell. They traded up from 32 to 31 to select Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama. He fell only because of a shoulder issue. He was a tremendous player. He fell because of a shoulder problem. And he almost fell out of the 1st round. But the Eagles actually tried to trade up with the Chargers. But then O'Marion Hampton was right there. And the Chargers were like, no, we're going to trade. We're not going to trade. We're going to take O'Marion Hampton at 20. And the Eagles were lucky. Campbell slipped into the 30s, and there he was at pick 31, and they trade up with the Chiefs. It was a great pick. And are you surprised that Howie Roseman made a good pick in the 1st round? Not really. 2nd round, they select Jihad Campbell, also the linebacker out of Alabama. In the 2nd round, I'm going to butcher this name. I always butcher it. 2nd round, pick 64, they select Andrew Makuba, the safety out of Texas. This is your CJ Gardner-Johnson replacement. Tracks the ball very well. Big hit machine. The only thing is he's a little small. That's it. That's the only thing. He tracks the ball well. He's got good hands. He hits you, and like you can feel it. It's what you want from a safety. This is your CJ Gardner-Johnson replacement. His coverage skills are a little lacking, but that's a safety for you. Now, they had to trade up to their 3rd round to go up a pick. So they select, in the 4th round, defensive tackle Ty Robinson out of Nebraska. This is a pusher. This is this guy. This is how he operates. He legit at Nebraska. Again, we didn't watch a lot of Nebraska tape here and a lot of Nebraska games, but Ty Robinson would just push the guards back into people. That's all he did. And it's hard to talk about a defensive tackle because you just, as a defensive tackle, it's the most it's like the offensive line. It's not the sexiest position. It's not the wide receiver. It's not the running back. It's not the quarterback. It's not the corner. It's not the linebacker. It's not, you don't get the sacks. You don't get sacks. You don't really stop touchdowns. You don't really score touchdowns. You're just in the way. That's kind of what you are. There's a lot of beef in the way. That's what you are. You're just the beef in the way. But to play defensive tackle like Ty Robinson, where he just pushes people back and you have to redirect what you're gonna do, that's how you know you have a good defensive tackle. And what did you think? Big fans, has a draft defensive tackles. Come on now. Next up, 5th round, selects cornerback Mac out of Central Florida. I didn't watch all of Central Florida tapes, but everything I heard about McWilliams is he's a talented corner. He's long, the way he operates, he has a longer stride. And with the moving on of Darius Slay, you kind of want to make sure you have the depth behind in your cornerback room in case something happens. So this is not a bad pick. 6th round, the Philadelphia Eagles select Kyle McCord, the quarterback out of Syracuse. So they wanted Shedeur Sanders. This is what they were trying to get to Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. The Browns end up taking him, and they are left with McCord in the 6th at pick 181. So McCord's an okay athlete. He's kind of like Tanner McKee in a way. He's okay. Not really a movable guy, but does move fairly well at times. So myself, but at the same time, it's okay. Hang on, give me a second. Let me get this window out of my face. There we go. So then they had, let me make sure I got this. 4 6s, but they had no 7th. The 4 6s was McCord, and then 10 picks later, they selected tackle Miles Hinton from Michigan. This is a move because let me say this. Hinton, and then about 18 picks later, 16 picks later, they select tackle Cameron Williams out of Texas. So these are your Lane Johnson potential replacements. Lane is getting older. He signed a 1-year contract extension. We'll see what happens next year. But these are replacements if something need a little work anyway, especially Cameron Williams needs to work a little bit more on his footwork. But these are 2 good picks. And their final pick was at pick 209. They select Antoine Powell-Ryland, the defensive end out of Virginia Tech, who had one of the best years in college football. He slipped because his arms are short. That's it. He had one of the best years. His arm length is short. That's the only reason he slipped. But it was a good choice for them. And again, a B+ in my grades. Now, let's go down to Dallas, Texas. Dallas, and this is known as a thing that the Cowboys fans know this, that they understand this. Dallas does something that it's almost called, as it's a negative, but they call it the Blue Star Special, which is they draft a player who has injury problems, or they draft a player who has behavioral problems. That's why. Having said that, they didn't do that early day 2. which is usually when they do it. Let's start. Tyler Booker was the first pick at pick 12. Offensive lineman. Not the best pick, but I think they wanted Tedora McMillan. He didn't fall there. They tried the trade back, and supposedly with the Texans, it didn't happen. It didn't go well. So they just sat there and took Booker at 12 instead of trying to take him at 20, which he was like the 24th ranked athlete. So 20, 24 is not much different. It just ended up having to be at 12. But he's a good player. Everything everyone has said about him is he's a tough player. He has a great attitude. He wants to be a leader. He's only the thing that makes it impressive with what they did, and we'll talk about this a little bit. A lot of the players that the Cowboys drafted and a lot of the players in this division that drafted were very young players. Very young. Like 20, 21-year-olds. And were captains. Or were leaders of the locker room even though they're at this age. So that was impressive. Excuse me, pick 44, my bad. In the second round, they took Donovan Ezeraku, the edge rusher out of Boston College. He's a guy who, if you look at who was on the board, Mike Green was on the board, Pierce was on the board, they had issues. They had filed against them of either voids or stuff in their personal life, allegations in their personal life specifically. So, as a Ezeraku, who was getting in this offseason, and even just a few weeks before the draft, fell to you at pick 44. It was a good choice by them. That he's long arms, which is what the Cowboys want as a defensive end, gets after the quarterback. He had 80 tackles this year. He's pretty good against the run, not terrific at it, but pretty good at it. But if you've seen how quickly he moves, and he has tremendous bend, which you don't find very often, this could be a steal. Again, not considered a blue star special. That was their third round pick at 76 overall, and that was Chavon Revel. Chavon Revel, who was junior, who was at 76, he was a corner, excuse me. They listed him as, actually they didn't list him here, cornerback out of East Carolina, which it's kind of an interesting story. I'll try to tell it very quickly. He had terrible grades coming out of high school because going into college because he was in a car accident that nearly took his life. He was in a coma. They had to drill in his skull. It was really bad. So his grades fell off a cliff. They were gone. So what did he do? He went and started working for Amazon. And he would do these 10 to 12 hour shifts. And one day he went to East Carolina for an open tryout after a work shift at Amazon and ran a 40 and it was awesome with no warm-up. He did this with very little to no warm-up. And he got a scholarship at East Carolina and was playing very well till he got hurt. He would have been a first-round pick had he not gotten hurt. But it's just a remarkable story. I just had to mention that right here. Then, about 19 picks later in the 6th round, excuse me, I missed it. Go to pick 149 from 76 to 149. I took Jaden Blue, the running back out of Texas. This kid, look, Cowboys wanted to go running back, and they had a lot of people they could get to had they waited a little. But they said, we have to make sure we get it back. And Jaden Blue, the running back out of Texas, he does everything really well. He's a good blocker, which you don't find on a very tall guy. He blocks very well, has good receiving skills, he's a fast guy. He's kind of his power is not ideal, but that's okay. But he's got good ball skills. He was great catching ability. He caught so many in college. It was like easy for him. Like I said, great blocking. Can run in and outside of the tackles. In between the tackles, outside the tackles. He does everything very well. Then they traded up, the Cowboys did. They traded up and got Shamar James, the linebacker. I believe it was Texas A&M. He, again, captain at age 21. And this was more of your defensive coordinator's choice. Actually, no, he was not from Texas A&M, from Florida. Everyone says they love this kid. They love this kid. This is how this kid operates. He'll bring you great special teams value and build depth. So that's a good thing. Then they drop about 19 picks later, and they take Alani Cornelius, the tackle out of Oregon, which I gotta admit, this is where it kind of started to fall a little bit for me. Because I was like, do they go to B- almost C+ here because they took another offensive lineman? At this point, they had 17 offensive linemen. But I'm like, okay, I guess, maybe. And then it kind of started to fix itself as at pick 217 in the 7th round, they took Jay Toya, the tackle out of UCLA, he's a big guy. That's all he is. He's big. You're not really going to move him for good or bad reason. Like, he's kind of, like I said, defense tackles, their job is just redirect. That's all you're trying to do. And that's what Jay Toya does. He just makes you redirect. And that's what you want. So I like that pick. Then the Cowboys double dipped at running back, taking Phil Maffa, who is different. He's a different kid, okay? Because he's a big guy. We know how he said Jaden Blue is small. He only weighs like 100 and they said he weighs 170 pounds. He's not that big. Phil Maffa weighs like 240. He's a big man. And he's a violent runner. He's your guy who's early downs, not much special teams value, but early down guy, and he will run. And maybe not a 1,000-yard rusher, but as a first or even third down guy, that's a good choice there. I'm going to try to pronounce this last name here, but it's very complicated. So in the 7th round at 247, Tommy Akingbasante, who he's a developmental defensive tackle. So they double dip at defensive tackle. So if you heard that right, they double dip at offensive tackle, offensive line. They double dip at running back. The competition, of course, but the defensive tackles, Toya maybe makes the roster. Akingbasante probably makes the practice squad as a 7th round pick. But again, I like how they started to fall from Cornelius, then they bounced back up by going and getting 2 D tackles and a running back again. So I had him at a B+. It was a good draft. It only would have been better had they drafted a wide receiver. Now let's go to Commanders. I got to admit, I did not think the Commanders were doing this in this class. So they go and they select offensive tackle Josh Connolly in the 29th pick. It's a good pick. I just didn't think they were going to do it. They traded for Tunsil from the Houston Texans. So I thought they were going to go that way and try to build more in the wide receiver room and add to like Debo and McLaurin, but they didn't. Then in the second round, this was a great pick for them. They drafted Trey Amos, the cornerback out of Ole Miss. Love that choice for them. Amos is a good corner, long, good strides. But that's where it pretty much ended for me. They went with Jalen Lane in the 4th round because they had no picks really in the 3rd round and in the 5th round. So that was okay, but there were still better receivers on the board, in my opinion. The Royals was still on the board. They still had a couple other guys. Trey Harris was still on the board. No, actually, no. Trey Harris went the night before, but Royals was still on the board, and they didn't go there. And I thought that was a better fit than Lane. So that's where it kind of started to slip for me. And then it continued with linebacker Kane Madrano in the 6th round. And again, like I can't really go lower than a C for that, but I just thought it started to fall pretty quickly there. And in the 7th round, they end up drafting a running back, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who didn't watch any of his tape. I have to admit that. I didn't watch anything. But this is where it kind of bounced back to a solid B for me at the highest point. So I had let's how I had it. I had Giants, Eagles, Cowboys all had the same grade. High as a B plus, low as a solid, just a B. That's where I had them. A solid B at the lowest point, at the highest point of B plus. For the Commanders, as low as a B minus, as high as a B plus, as high as a B. So it just if they had an extra pick to fill one of their holes, which was safety, that would have been potential B plus for me. They just didn't have enough picks, but I thought they did a great job too. That when you can say that an entire division drafted at the lowest or highest end a B, that's impressive. That's very impressive. It is the reason why. Who did I think had the best drafts or the best draft of the division? You have to almost go in the order that I think it's going to help the team the most. I thought the Giants had the best draft. I thought Dallas had the 2nd best. I thought the Eagles had the 3rd best. Only because the Eagles were getting players that aren't going to help them in the immediate time. So maybe when we see this in 2 years, 5 years, whatever, we go and say the Eagles had the best draft. But maybe we also say, no, it was the Giants. No, it was the Commanders. Or it was the Cowboys. The Cowboys had a great draft. All they had were great drafts. But with the lack of picks that the Commanders had, they just fell a little short. That is all. But let me know in the comments who had the best draft in the NFC East. Was it the Eagles? Was it the Giants? Was it the Commanders? Or was it the Cowboys? Let me know in the comment section. When you're there, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. It's absolutely free. It does me a lot of good. But until next time, I'm Jacob here.